Lovers of the beautiful game, welcome back to another match reaction by myself, Roza. Uh, Arsenal 3, Liverpool 2. What can I say? The first thing that I have to say is that I'm exceptionally proud of the team today. Um, because before we analyze the performance, and I don't look at these things as analysis, of course, I look at them as fan reactions, highly emotionally charged, and all of those things. But before we talk about the game and certain things that I picked up upon the game, I want to mention that this is a feat that we haven't been able to do in the past 6, 7 years. Since Klopp came into the Premier League, we've struggled to beat Liverpool. We've struggled to cause a problem for Liverpool, home and away. I mean, the stats show it clearly. I'm sure you guys have seen the stats being peddled throughout, the build up to this game. And even though Liverpool were vulnerable and like everyone could see that they are fundamentally beatable, not a lot of people gave us a chance against them, even though we on a good nick. And so I think to rise to the occasion in that sense that the Arsenal players did today is something quite exceptional. A couple of things that I picked up on that I thought would be interesting to mention in the fan reaction today is first the fact that we weren't our best, we weren't on our best or at our best today, whichever English word makes sense. We played the game in spells, but the interesting thing is that we managed ourselves quite well throughout those spells. Um, Even though we lost against United, I think we played a better game against United, and not because of the intention. The intention was there, the desire, and I'm sure if I haven't watched Arteta's post match conference or your interviews, but I do think that the desire was there 90 minutes of the game. The issue was that we weren't clinical, in terms of the final action, the decision making, a couple of mistakes that we made, and if you're being honest, one of the two goals we basically gifted to them, based on our mistakes, and they scored against the run of play. So I think that we could have been more clinical. We should be more clinical. The second thing that I want to pick up on is that because this is such a mentality shifter, this game, the build up, people were talking probably about, Liverpool is vulnerable and all of that, but still, Liverpool have been doing this thing to Arsenal for the past 6, 7 years. And so, not a lot of people were giving us a chance, even though we are in good nick at the moment. And so, it's a mentality juggernaut in the sense that Arsenal players rose to the occasion, and that's all that you always want from your players. Even if we lost today, I thought that we could. It's a performance we could have been proud of, but disappointed in parts in terms of how much more clinical we could have been. And if I think back to the game, I don't see a lot of clear cut chances we conceded, much rather than Liverpool's creativity created. You know what I mean? And so that's always, part of the nuanced way of looking at stats that we don't see is that we we can, of our own accord and our own fault, concede chances, and then the team either takes them or not, and we should count that as something that we can improve upon. But sometimes the genius of the team goes beyond your organization as a defense or as a unit and so on. And then I also want to mention the two key players this today, which was the two wingers, Bukayo Saka and Martinelli. I thought we've had a lot of people speak a lot about Bukayo Saka and the way he started the season, and the fact that we aren't speaking as much about him because now there's Jesus and all of that. But I think it was brilliant. It was exceptional. And then if you look as well at Gabriel Martinelli, he created a problem for both Trent and Gomez, in my opinion. And yes, he overplays here and there, but I think the caveat to that is that even at times when it does come off, he overplays, but because it comes off, we never complain about it. And so I do give him leeway for 2, 3, 4 times, in a half for him to lose the ball, because I know 3, 4, 5 times he doesn't lose the ball and it creates a fair, convertible chance. So we've got to be able to do that. And Saka was calm, composed for that penalty. I think he chose his corner and he made his decision and he stuck it there. And Tahir couldn't get there in time. And the players did well, even though Jesus didn't score today. But I think it was really a menace against two physical centre backs, Van Dijk and Matip. But also I do think it is fair to mention that maybe there's a tweak, technical tweak that might need to happen. I'm just a fan, of course. I don't know an ounce of as much of about football that Arteta and the guys who are part of his coaching staff do, but there's a pattern that's developing around Jesus dropping in games around the 70th minute. He drops. He starts to not be involved because I think he's overly involved in the first 60 to 65 minutes. And that's when we don't have the ball, and when we do have the ball, he comes in too deeply. He does this Lacazette thing that we're not noticing because he's much more clinical than Lacazette in terms of converting his chances. But he does this Lacazette thing where he overly involves himself, and I do think it saps his energy. Because I was watching Haaland I think yesterday, where Haaland doesn't even press that high. I hear people talk about Ronaldo shouldn't be playing in the Ten Hag team because, uh, you know, um, he should be he doesn't press. But I don't even think that Haaland presses that much. I watched him for 90 minutes yesterday. He played the whole game, and he doesn't press that much. He just creates a presence and then he lets the game flow him by. He exerts his energy in the thing or in the area that is most important for, and that is scoring goals. So I think there needs to be a conversation between Arteta, the coaching staff, and Jesus to say maybe reserve your energy in parts of the game, manage your energy so that you don't play at 100 miles an hour. And then finally, I just want to talk about part of the in-game management where I thought as much as today we weren't as clinical. I mean, we made mistakes. Gabriel Magalhaes, it needs to be looked at. There's a couple of more mistakes other than the goals that he created today, and we need to look at that. How can we be able to improve this? Maybe he needs a rest. I do sincerely think now he needs a rest. And then, of course, the in-game management. I would have called for Rob Holding after the penalty, goal. But then putting on Tierney and then shifting Tomiyasu into the third as a third centre back, who's already felt the game, gives us two positives. One, Tomiyasu doesn't have to come into the pace of the game, the tempo of the game. He's already there. He can slot in easily, whereas Holding would need to adjust to the pace of the game. But secondly, Tierney still gives us, as much as it's a defensive sub, it still gives us an outlet because we know how explosive he is when he goes on the run. He can put his head down and go, and that puts Liverpool in the back burner and the back foot as well. So I think that was good. But now we look on to Leeds. Thank you, Arsenal. Well done. We're proud of you. We still can improve. Let's not get carried away. One game at a time. On we go. Come on, Arsenal.